Have you ever really enjoyed something and then decided to go online to see what people are saying about it, only to find out that everyone else hates it? Have you ever done it twice in 1 month? So, two of the most anticipated album of the year both dropped in August, and were not greeted with the warmest of receptions. These albums being Lorde's third studio album, Solar Power, and Kanye West's 10th studio album, Donda. Now, these have not been complete critical failures or anything. At the time of writing, Solar Power is sitting on a 69 on Metacritic, and Donda is at a 51, so reception has been mixed. Personally, I enjoyed my time with both of these albums. In fact, I was surprised to see as many negative reactions towards them as I did, but I think I know what the problem is, and it's pretty simple. These albums are not as good as these artists have done in the past. Lorde and Kanye are both iconic artists at this point that have set the bar very high for themselves, and so fans have their expectations for a new project set at a pretty unreasonable level. This is most obvious to me with Lorde's new record. The last Lorde album we got before this was 2017's Melodrama, which was a massive critical success. That, despite seemingly not resonating with fans in the moment, has since become the closest thing to a cult classic a record by an artist as big as Lorde could ever be. As I talked about in my Olivia Rodrigo video a few months ago, the influence from Melodrama can be seen all over the pop charts at the moment. It helped bring a lo-fi shoegaze-inspired sound into the mainstream that mixes radio-ready hooks with vulnerable and sometimes sarcastic lyrics, or what has since been affectionately termed sad girl. So, when your last album changed the landscape of the pop charts for the last 5 years, people are going to have fairly high expectations for the follow-up. Solar Power is almost nothing like Melodrama. It's a more relaxed, bright, and fun, summery pop album, complete with a beach aesthetic and a lead single that kind of sounds like Pure Shores by All Saints. Personally, I love this album. I'm a sucker for a chilled out summer vibe, and Lorde delivered us a fantastically produced pop album to unwind to in the sun. Not to mention that there's a layer of irony and sarcasm, particularly in tracks like Mood Ring or even Stoned at the Nail Salon, that give just enough extra context to make me want to come back and decipher what the album is really all about. I think this album will be seen in a better view in a few years once the shock of how drastically different a tone it has to its predecessor wears off on fans. Kanye, on the other hand, that's a little more complicated. Before Donda dropped out of nowhere on August 29th, Kanye's last album was 2019's polarizing Jesus is King, which I actually did a video on at the time. Having had more time to reflect on that album, I think it's a disappointing and disjointed album that is too short to fully shine, but has its moments of greatness buried in it if you're willing to look. General consensus seems pretty similar. I don't know how many personal rankings I've seen calling it the worst of his albums to date, so the hype for Donda comes from a different place to Solar Power. The hype was far more artist generated. Kanye releases new projects pretty consistently, but is always looking to push his sound and the genre as a whole forward while doing so. This means every Kanye album has a hype to it just to see what he does next. Match that with the listening parties that felt as if we were watching one of the most iconic artists of the last 20 years craft his latest project in real time, and the amount of tabloid attention he was getting right before this, allowing fans to guess at potential themes of the album, as well as the sheer number of leaks that were popping up all over the place. All eyes were on this album before it was officially out. Taking all that in mind, unless this album was absolutely flawless, it was going to be a disappointment to a large number of people. And Donda is not flawless. It's way too long, there are glaring production errors stemming from the fact that the album doesn't appear to actually be finished yet. The last 4 tracks could not feel any more redundant, and in typical Kanye style, there are a handful of punchlines that are eye-roll worthy at best and audible groan worthy at worst. If these issues ruined the album for you personally, I get it. I certainly took note of them straight away after my first spin, and they've irritated me since. However, I think there is far too much absolutely fantastic moments on this record to fully dismiss it. Come to Life, Hurricane, and Believe What I Say are among the best music Kanye has ever released, and he blends the core themes of this record into each other so well at times it feels like you're getting a window into his mind as he processes his divorce, grapples with his legacy in the industry, and remembers his late mother and the impact she had on him all at once. It's far from perfect, but it's also far from the 6.0 that Pitchfork review you all seem to hold as gospel gave it. Now, hype killing a project is nothing new. It happens with albums, movies, and everything else all the time. Heck, my minor nitpicks about those Marvel shows could be seen as pretty much the same thing, really. It was just interesting to see it happen to two of my favourite artists and most anticipated albums of the year so close to each other. Tell me your thoughts on either of these albums in the comments, though. Do you agree with me that people have been overly harsh on them, or do you think that they were crushing disappointments? While you're at it, why not subscribe to the channel for more stuff like this and check out my other stuff, including season 1 of my podcast, Midnight Screening, as all episodes are available on this channel now.
So I knew Joseph before he was famous.
Well, you knew someone who played Joseph before.
No, yeah. He knew Jesus' dad.
You know, Nathan, I need to point out, you know that's a different Joseph, right?
Oh, yes, that was the joke.
So, thanks for hearing me out on that one, and I'll see you next.
Did those ideas ever really come to life?